Hello and welcome to another instalment of our occasional podcast called I Wish I Hadn't. I'm Dave Hill.
And I'm John Wyatt. As you can tell from our names, David and Jonathan, we were born in the 1950s, so we've had many years to accumulate embarrassing moments which we now feel happy to share.
The dictionary defines regret as a sorrowful remembrance, a sense of loss. But we're not in the business of sorrow and loss here. We're dealing with those things in life that we might wish had been otherwise, but which we're now prepared to own up to.
Well, here we are, Dave, in the present.
In the present,
and
together again at last.
Together again at last, and in the present, because today's subject is going to be presents.
Presents of all sorts, whether that be birthday, whether it be leaving, whether it be Christmas.
That's right.
Whatever it might be, whether it be from...
given and received.
Given and received from, could be a friend, could be a relative, could be a true love.
Yes, it could be. I mean, and for me, you know, it tends to be not given because I'm such an astonishingly good present giver.
Of course.
That I don't have anything. So that's not true, though. But so what is the worst present you've ever received?
The worst present I've ever received? Well, I think that's quite difficult to say, the worst present I've ever received.
Because you had so many.
I had quite a few. I mean, my aunt who moved abroad was notoriously... known for some of the presents that she would send. I think because they lived such a long way away, she would always try and send something for Christmas, not necessarily for birthdays, but certainly for Christmas, that was reasonably cheap to send from all that distance away, and small, so it didn't cost too much to post. Yeah. So we certainly used to get some interesting presents, considering that they come from such a long way away. You know, the odd sort of 2 handkerchiefs, or it might be, well, I suppose when I was younger, like a colouring book of marsupials, shall we say?
Some koala dung.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So they tended to be interesting presents that.
You never got a didgeridoo.
I never got a didgeridoo. No, it was something that I couldn't even blow my own didgeridoo. Yes.
I think probably the worst present I ever had when I was a child. We had a party, and I probably would have been about 9 or 10. One of my friends came, and it was a long, thin thing wrapped in paper. And I thought, I didn't know what it could be. I mean, I was too young for a pool cue, but I opened it up excitedly, and it was a jockey shoehorn.
Oh. Very nice, very nice.
It was
indeed,
jockey because it was like a jockey's whip, but it was a shoehorn. And what you don't really need when you're 8 or 9 is a shoehorn.
No, absolutely not. No, I mean, I think you reminded me there of a Christmas when I can't remember if I've told you this one before, about when I desperately wanted a scale extra set for Christmas.
Yeah.
And in fact, it was a scale extra set that I wanted. But I also thought, from the size of the box that this thing came in, I thought this could possibly be a Subbuteo set.
Oh, exciting!
From some neighbours, actually. And why I thought neighbours would be buying me a Subbuteo set, I don't know. But this thing was stashed away at the back of a wardrobe just before Christmas. I remember looking longingly at the fact that it was wrapped and thinking, this is it. This is the way forward. It's going to be something fantastic. This. And I opened it up. On Christmas morning, and unfortunately it was a table tennis set, except for the fact that it was literally 2 bats of ball and like a circle of plastic, like a thin circle of plastic that stood on 2 feet, and you put it on your dining table and you tried to hit the ball through the middle. Now this would have been great, apart from the fact that the circle of plastic had actually broken, and so it was almost like a sort of a crescent moon with a bit missing out of the middle that was sat on the floor, and all I could do really was get some sellotape and mend it. Unfortunately, when you mended it, it needed more than just a bit of sellotape, because it would slowly droop down as you were playing. probably because of my feeble attempts at mending it. But it wasn't what I wanted. It wasn't the greatest present in the world that I thought it was going to be.
No.
But
They tried.
very kind of them. Very
Of course
kind of them.
it was. Yes. Yeah.
I remember we had actually a very nice present from someone. In fact, if you look out of our recording studio here to your left, you'll see on the fence down there's a sort of a pottery teapot.
There is.
Which is a very attractive
I noticed
teapot.
it earlier, actually.
Yeah, it's very nice.
Yeah.
It's actually a bird's nest. It's for wrens, I think it is.
Is it?
And wrens are supposed to go in that hole and build a nest in there.
Okay.
And that's been up there for probably 6 years now.
I don't
And not
see
a
many
single,
wrens hovering.
not a single wren has ever been anywhere near it. In fact, no bird has ever been near it.
No.
It just sits there on the thing, which is a shame. It's not the worst present I've had, because it's quite nice, but as a practical thing, didn't quite work.
I can remember being very ungracious about some presents, which is not the best thing really. But I remember when my parents went away to France, and I would have been sort of mid-teens, and I stayed behind because I was doing O-levels or something. And they came back with some presents for me, and they come back with a record that was in French, and I was very
Nice.
into music at the time, but it was probably some French musician, some sort of French warbler, a Charles Aznavour or something, and a pair of trousers, which my mum had chosen, because again, I was sort of into, clothes at the time, and they were kind of tweed, but it was kind of like wearing something knitted from nettles, because they were incredibly prickly. I think I tried them on once, and then and I just wish I hadn't been quite so ungracious. I wish I'd pretended to like them, more than I did.
Because there was the famous Stilton and cheese fiasco. Have I told you about the Stilton and cheese fiasco?
Think so. No.
One year we bought for a family relative. I said, "Oh, this would be nice for a family relative." Marks and Spencer's were doing a little presentation box with a nice little wedge of Stilton and a bottle of port.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, that's really, I like that. So bought it, wrapped it up, took it on Christmas morning. We exchanged presents, and the family relative exchanged a present slightly larger than ours that we handed over. We opened ours, and it was a presentation box of Stilton and port, but a much bigger size.
Oh dear.
And then they opened theirs,
how
and it was
embarrassing.
from the same place, but obviously 3 times as small, and
God.
of the same thing. So we looked like real cheapskates.
Tell me, I don't want to disillusion any people listening in, but Santa Claus isn't real, is he? Oh God,
What?
have I disappointed
Oh,
you
my
there?
word.
Oh Dave,
Oh, my
my God, I wish I
goodness
hadn't
me.
said that now. Oh, what a terrible error. No, he is, he's real.
He's got to be real.
He's a
isn't he?
kindly
Yes,
old
yes,
gentleman.
yes.
But do you remember the thing on Christmas morning where you went? Did you have your Christmas stocking on your bed?
On the bed, yes.
That's right,
It appeared hopefully while you were asleep, and suddenly there was this lumpy thing at the bottom of the bed that
That's
you could
right.
feel with your feet.
Yes.
you-
And it was usually the turd you'd done during the night.
It could well have been after a Christmas Eve the night before, especially when you got to your teenage years. Yeah.
Yeah, but the excitement of waking up, and that actually was exciting.
Oh
wasn't
yeah,
it?
yeah, yeah. I mean, you worked your way through the bits that were actually in it, the
Yeah.
book and the some sort of toy. Remember transistor radio
What
in
was
there
it?
once.
A
which was
Satsuma
great.
at the bottom.
Satsuma and
Yeah.
a walnut at the bottom.
And a
normally,
walnut,
yeah.
that's
Satsuma
right.
walnut,
Yeah. But you see, my mum used to keep a Christmas book, so I knew what everybody was getting for Christmas because I knew where she kept the book. So there were no surprises at Christmas. So again, I should have sort of denied myself there and not looked in the Christmas book.
Of course, one of the other things about presents was that when I was on my teaching career, usually at the end of a school year or end of a Christmas term and then the end of the school year, children would bring in presents for the teacher, which was fantastic. I love that. Sometimes you got things that there's no way you'd ever use at all,
Like a
and you got
jockey
the feeling,
shoehorn.
like a jockey shoehorn, that you got the feeling that some child had said to their parent, "I've got to have a present for my teacher," and the parent would think, "Oh my goodness, what on earth are we going to give them?" and found something that someone had given them.
A teapot for a rent.
Could be a teapot for a
Yeah.
rent, but it was often something you thought, well, thank you very much, that's going in a jumble sale.
Yeah.
You know, I remember a glass fish once that I had, multicoloured fish. I mean, it's the sort of thing that probably, you know, at that time in the 1970s was one of the ugliest things I'd ever seen. And now probably if you took it on Antiques Roadshow, they'd say, well, this was a special works by some glass artist, it's worth £450 or something like that. But it disappeared. And of course, there were occasions when I was teaching in the middle of Birmingham where I would get presents from children at the end of the year, which were quite expensive. I mean, I remember a set of darts I had, which were really nice, tungsten darts. The price tag was still on them. They'd obviously never gone through a cash register, and the child had obviously liberated them from the shop. And it was a case of don't tell me, just take them and that's it. But I did try over the years to drop hints well before that Sir liked wine.
A good one, yes.
And
that's right.
that worked quite a lot in there. Wine or beer.
Customers used to give me presents. I mean, I had a bottle of champagne and some whiskey once.
Oh wow!
I like whiskey, but I mean,
drink
nice
it,
to get
but
I think my most epic fail with a present was giving some really nice, quite expensive Dorset biscuits to somebody who I then discovered was gluten intolerant.
Right, yeah, that's good.
That went down well. But also in my family, we've had a tradition of giving terrible presents to it deliberately. Do you remember you and I used to give each other terrible birthday cards, didn't we?
We did, yes. We used to find some that were quite, totally inappropriate normally, weren't they?
But the best one, we used to have things like, I remember sort of a knitted doily that used to be given, to the members of the family over and over again, and you didn't know who had it, and then they would pass it on to somebody else. And the one that we got in my family currently is it's called Quackers, and it's a duck. Made out of shells. It's sort of very
Nice.
badly glued together.
Nice.
And it started because I went actually with Ellen and Mandy to some sort of second-hand place, and I bought this because it was just so hideous. It made me laugh. It cost 50p. And later that day, I was meeting Joe's wife Sam because Joe was in India at the time, and Sam has a habit of choosing, unusual things and sort of putting them on the wall. She likes sort of slightly, strange, found objecty things. And when I gave her this, and I said, take it back, and when Joe gets back from India, put it on the bedside table and say, look, Joe, I bought this, I love it, and see what he says. Of course, I mean, he saw through it immediately. But Quackers has been passed back and forth through the family now for about 15 years.
Wow, that's good, isn't
and
it?
the tradition actually is when you go to somebody else's house, you hide it.
Hide it, yeah.
So when we go over to Canada, it's hidden, and then some months later they find it, and then it comes back again.
Yes, yeah. I do have a group of friends, and present company included, who, having stayed at our house, managed to buy some presents for my wife.
Of course.
At a car boot sale.
It was a competition, wasn't it?
It was a competition. I think it was 10p, wasn't it? It was who could get the worst thing
present
for 10p to give to Lynn, and there were certain things that came, and where they are now, I don't know, because they certainly weren't on display for very long. No. But they had a certain cachet.
They did. Yes, they did. Yeah. Yeah, they certainly did.
I mean, I do remember one previous marriage. One of the first Christmases I went to, I was suddenly informed that at Christmas dinner, the tradition was that you gave each other a small present at Christmas dinner time, which our family didn't do that, and I didn't know about. So it was a really quick purchase from the shops, and not being particularly imaginative, I actually bought everybody the same thing, unwrapped it, and it became a bit of a joke, because after the first one was opened and someone said, "Oh, it's a Toblerone, that's lovely, thank you very much." The next person said, "Oh, It's another Toblerone.
I
Thank you
got
very
one
much.
too.
By the time we got round the table, it was a case of, oh, guess what I've got?
Yeah.
It's a bloody Toblerone.
Yeah. Not easy to disguise them either,
No,
is it?
no,
Really?
no, no,
I mean,
no,
they
you-
probably knew from the shape.
Yeah, you could have said, looking at it, it was something that, say, a technical drawing architect might use on
Yeah.
his board, but
Yes,
apart from
that's
that, it had to be a
right.
Toblerone, didn't it, really?
It did,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, I used to give sort of presents that I've been subsequently embarrassed about, because I remember going to stay with an aunt and taking her a bottle of Blue Nun. I was going for a meal, and I was about sort of 17, I suppose, thinking, it's quite sophisticated. Later discovered that she's a real wine buffer. I think she probably accepted it very
Yes,
graciously. I
yes,
don't
yeah.
know if we drank it at the
Yeah.
meal, probably not. She just, threw it away. But subsequently, I thought to myself, oh God, I really fouled up there.
Well, I mean, that's the thing about going back to when I used to drop hints about wine. It didn't necessarily mean that children would bring me really
Of
quality
course not.
bottles of wine.
No,
In fact,
wouldn't have done.
some of the stuff that came, basically, it was paint stripper.
Yes.
And again, I used to get a lot of stuff that included sometimes that would go into a jumper sale because I thought, well, I'm not going to have that. Someone else can have that. And those sort of presents are the sort of presents that you. Should we say you offload somewhere,
Yes.
hoping that it's not somewhere that the person who gave it to you, of course, appears. This is
Yeah.
always the thing with duff presents, isn't it? You've got to be so careful, especially in this era of re-gifting,
Yes.
that you don't re-gift something to someone who gave it you in the first place,
I know.
which
Quite agree.
is always a possibility.
Yeah.
Always a possibility.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, I mean, birthdays and Christmas are simpler now. 'Cause fewer people to buy. People don't exchange presents as much, do
No.
they, really?
No. And we tend to get very boring and say we'll have some theatre tokens, or we'll have some tokens for something that you can choose yourself. Then I mean, I'll be honest, when even as a I suppose as a teenager, I was always excited to get like W.H. Smith tokens because it meant that come January the 1st I could go in, there'd be sales on, and I could buy all the sort of stationery and notebooks and stuff that I wouldn't normally go out and buy, but I wanted. And it always felt like you weren't paying for it then, didn't it? It was like, this is a gift.
But also, I mean, Christmas would come and you would ask for an album or a book or
Yes,
something.
yes.
Nowadays, you don't, do you? Because you
No.
don't actually need that anymore. So
No.
that's a shame. You can't. You don't have that thing to look forward
No,
to.
no.
If you want an album, you download it, or
Yes.
you
Yeah,
stream it, or
yeah.
you book. You just go on Amazon.
Yeah,
You no
exactly,
longer
yeah.
need to think 2 months in advance. What am I going to get
No,
for Christmas?
no. And I suppose the equivalent these days is an Amazon token,
Yes.
or I suppose you can get Spotify tokens. I don't know.
I
but,
imagine so. Maybe.
and then so if you are certainly with Amazon, you can just get whatever you like from it, all the books you want, all the
You can
records
listen
you
to a
want.
podcast.
You can listen to a podcast. Yes.
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 And what better thing to do?
What better thing to do? And
Yeah.
just to let people know that our podcasts are always available on all the most popular podcast sites.
Absolutely.
And there may now even be a subscription button or a donation button
Yep.
where if anybody feels that they've been entertained well enough and would like to make some sort of donation to fund, shall we say, probably better record equipment or something like that, then
And possibly coming
please do.
soon, some exclusive content.
Indeed, we've decided that we've probably almost exhausted our wish I hadn'ts.
Yep.
And
I wish
we'd
we
like
hadn't,
to
though,
wish we
really.
hadn't done all the wish we hadn'ts,
Yeah.
but we are getting to a point where we feel that we might do something a little bit different, and even under the umbrella of I wish I hadn't, it may
Yes.
well be us discussing music, books, films,
Yeah.
etc.
We will just be the I wish I hadn't guys.
I wish I hadn't, guys. Yes. Now we haven't actually invited a genie in for this one, have
We
we?
haven't, have we?
No. Just
No.
wondering. I mean, I think really with presents that you wish you hadn't bought, most of those could be certainly got rid of by the genie, and some of the ones you've received. I mean, I do wish that table tennis set had been a little more sturdy for a start off. If the genie could mend it a bit
I
better than
think
I
the
did.
genie's going to be going home with a rubbish table tennis set and a jockey shoehorn.
And a jockey shoe.
Do
What
genies
more
wear
could you-
shoes? I mean, who knows?
Well, those ones with the turned up pointed toes on them, I think.
You don't need a shoehorn for them, do you?
Absolutely not. No.
So thank
no.
you, Genie.
Yeah,
I'm
thank you, Genie.
glad to have got rid of it.
Yeah, and we will see you next time.
Yeah.
Maybe for an I wish I hadn't, or maybe just for a general chat about something.
Exactly.